Hello, my dear viewers. Welcome to Astrological Channel for Vedas. Today, I'm happy to introduce my Jyotisha mentor, Dr. Dharmesh Mehta. Dr. Dharmesh Mehta has a deep knowledge in astrology. And as I remember, you studied Vedic astrology more than 30 years. Yes?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Besides Jyotish, Dr. Dharmesh Mehta is expert in Vastu Shastra and in Vedic ancient scriptures and traditions. And by the God's blessings, he became a teacher of mine. Shira, you are giving a lot of wisdom in your explanation of Jyotish, and because of this, even very complicated subjects become easy to understand. Today, I want to ask you to explain the importance of Chandra and Surya Lagna, and maybe you told to Russian and English auditors some secrets. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for introducing and inviting in your channel. It's a great pleasure for me also to address the Russian people also. So say my hello in Russian language. And
Yeah.
Very good question as you asked. Because normally there are three kind of a deed is been registered. Whatever the deeds we do, it is three kind of deeds is registered. One is what we do from our body, physical body. So that physical body governs under the ascendant, that lagna or ascendant, what we say. Normally the people, normally means 90% people see the ascendant chart, from where you can look at how your physical action will be. But see, we only see the car. We don't know who's driving the car. Now, driving or a driver is a main person who's leading the car into the direction, and that is either our soul or either our mind. Now, this two chart can be separated from your ascendant chart. Within your ascendant, there are two more chart lies inside. You can start the wherever your moon is located. From there, you can draw a new chart that is called moon chart. And wherever in which sign the sun is placed, from there also you can put another chart that is called sun chart. Now there is a one system in the astrology called as the Sudarshan Chakra. In Sudarshan Chakra, you got all three together. There is the sun, moon, and ascendant. So that it will be easy that what is your action from your soul, what is your action from your mind or mood, and what is your bodily action. See, I make a difference of it. Suppose you are thirsty, you want to drink a water. Now, this thirst is your bodily need, physical need, that you are hungry, you are thirsty. But your mood and mind, that is your moon, say, how to get up, why I should go there, right? So that is our moon chart, which drive us, even though there is a need, we don't take it. That is our mood. Whereas our conscious say, we must take this, otherwise we'll fall sick, right? Either thirsty, either whatever the bodily need is there. So there are three different forces. Now one has to very carefully judge which is more dominating in everybody's chart. It's not always the ascendant is dominating every time. You draw three different charts. You draw a chart of ascendant, you draw a chart of a moon chart, and you draw the sun chart. Sometimes it happens that ascendant chart is very perfect because your ascendant lord plays well. So that what happens that your body is in control of yourself. See, as like we see the TV and remote. TV is being controlled by the remote. We can from the distance we play all the channels, voice, everything. Same wise the ascendant is the TV and ascendant lord is the remote who's under the control. So your action is controlled within yourself. Whereas moon chart, while we are seeing the moon chart, we came to know that moon is very powerful. In moon chart, what happens? That moon is placed in certain sign, and that sign lord is having very good coordination with the moon, or placed well in the Kendra or Trikona in the moon chart itself. That is called dispositor. the moon disposes. The moon plays in whatever sign that Lord is placed well. So you have a good control over your mind. Third, you have to see the sun chart. In the sun chart, same the moon chart, you have to see how your sun placement is there. We have a 6 relationship with every planet with the sign. Either planet can be own sign, either it can be in the exalted sign, either it can be in the friendly sign, either it will be a neutral, either it will be an enemy, or lastly it may be debilitated. So in all three, you have to see whether the ascendant Lord is own sign, exalted, friendly sign, all six parameter in the moon chart, and all the 6 parameter in the sun chart. By checking all these 3 charts, you will come to know you have better as a moon chart. One has a better as a sun chart. One has a better as a ascendant. So look at on that prospect that his body is controlled by his soul. And that is why we say mind, body, and action. Why we say this? That is the control and that is the deeds. In the karma's history, it is not only the body which do is suffering, because body that destroy after the death. It is a mood that is also is like a zip and it goes to the next level. Because whatever the mood, whatever the mindset you have at the end of your life, that will convert it into the next life. But the major factor what we connect from this life to the next life is soul. Soul only travels. It's a mood and everything is a part of the soul. So soul, that is the sun. So we have to see the soul and sun, how the sun placement, how the sun chart is indicating. If your sun chart is a powerful, where the placement of a planet is good in the sun chart, that means you are doing good deeds in this life. Your soul is totally under your body and rightly performing its duty. When sun is placed well in the chart or well in the sun chart, sun and its dispositor place well, that means you are listening your conscious. Your conscience is a very powerful. And because of your conscience, you are leading with the right action. And that is why you are accumulating less of a deeds or pending karmas. So that simple it is. Now, ascendant Lord can be diffused or reduce its strength by 3 ways. Either ascendant Lord is placed in 6th, 8th, or 12th house from first house, then it has a no say. If a ascendant Lord is a debilitated, it has been suppressed, no voice of our Lord. And third situation is that where the ascendant Lord is combust. When it combusts, the total control goes to the sun, because now ascendant Lord has no power. So same way in moon chart. If moon chart, moon is placed in the Scorpio sign, it's debilitated. Somebody born in the place of a no moon day or in the eclipse day, if somebody born in the eclipse day, you might be having sun, moon, and Rahu, sun, moon, and Ketu, or sun, Ketu with opposition of sun, moon, and Ketu, or moon and Rahu in opposite to the sun. Either a sun eclipse appears on the this no moon day, or there's a moon eclipse that happens on the full moon day. So moon chart can be lose its power if the moon is in Scorpio, that is a debilitated moon. If moon is in the no moon day, if somebody born, then it is a Amavasya, there is no power of a moon, or in the eclipse day. So that is to be checked whether it is there. Then you have to leave the moon chart. At that time, what happens? Your mood is never being with your body. You might have interact with a certain people, those who bodily action is totally different with their thoughts. They are thinking something good or bad, but their body is not performing same. See, in everywhere we know some what is good, what is bad. What is good for one may be bad for others. So it's a morality or it differ with the person to person, place to place. But certain things are universal fact, like telling lie. It's a universal truth that it is bad deeds. But when somebody's moon is weak, moon is debilitated, moon in the Amavasya or moon in the eclipse, where the power of a moon has been absorbed. During that period, during that birth, if somebody is having a birth in this, so he denied the universal truth. That means he is denying the universal truth, and his thoughts, his mood is not aligned with the other's mood. And that is why he is accumulating more of a bad deeds. Because when you go reverse or negative to the nature, obviously nature will suffer you or punish you. So that condition is very worse. And most of the people suffer because of his own nature. God never makes anybody unhappy. It's our thoughts, it's our belief. So that is moon. That has to be kept very much in the lighted, that one has to check the moon chart. See, moon chart normally we see while we are seeing transit. Why? Because that is immediately affecting our mind. We are seeing moon chart at the time of casting the good and bad days, that like a muhurta. When we are casting the muhurt, we have to see the moon chart. At the time of a matchmaking also, we see the moon chart, how his mood is matched with her mood. So there also you are seeing moon chart. So major of things where you are seeing the adjustment with others, you see the moon chart. That is also many of our people see, but least seen by either one person only or two-person only people see the sun chart. That is rare that people see the sun chart. Now what to see? That is the main thing, that what to see. See, normally in the ascendant chart, we keep the sun inside the first house as being a significator, or we call in the Sanskrit as a Karaka. Karaka means who's a reason behind truth. Why one person is alive? Because still soul is inside, still life is inside, still light is inside. Soul is nothing but the light, enlightenment, or life force. That is why we tell that he is alive. When somebody is not alive, that means we say now soul has departed, soul has moved out. So within the ascendant, there is a placement of a soul. But you see, when you are seeing the sun chart, sun lagna, Surya Lagna, when you keep the sun in the ascendant and you are fasting, that means you are double your soul, your inner voice as well as your confidence level. See, when sun is put outside, it's your confidence level. And when sun is inside in the ascendant chart, it is your soul, which is giving you inner power, right? So that is the double power you get in the sun chart. That is why I advise many of you just check your sun chart. While seeing your sun chart, you place the sun in the first house and complete your chart. So there you have made your sun chart. Or if you have a software where you have this Sudarshan Chakra, you can get immediately. So by casting the sun chart, now you have to see whose place Kendra from the sun. In sun chart, you have to see who's in the Kendra. So those who planet-wise seated in the Kendra in the sun chart, they are the first helper. They are the pleasure given to your soul. So you should always follow them. Whenever that dasha comes, your soul brings comfort. Your soul feels something comfort when that dasha will start. Many times it happens that some planet is seated in 6th house, 8th house, or not so good house, but that dasha is good. While seeing the sun chart, we come to know, okay, they are seated in the Kendra to the sun chart. That is why your soul is happy, even though your surrounding is not so good, but your soul is very happy. Why? Because in sun chart, casting a sun chart, your that planet is placed in the Kendra. So is that not a good? Another second thing, in your Surya chart, in your Surya and Sun chart, you see who's seated in 5th house and 9th house. If any planet is seated in 5th house or 9th house, you will come to know this planet time whenever comes. If suppose 5th house, Jupiter is placed from your Sun, the Jupiter placed 5th in the Sun chart. So during that period, whenever Jupiter Dasha comes or Sun Jupiter period comes or Jupiter Sun period comes, you will meet your real guru or mentor, because that is the connection of your soul with that person. It is not that you have made him as a guru, That is not that you have made him as a mentor, but he will come in your life. He will guide your soul in the way of a friends, relatives, anybody. But he will come in your life during that period and he will guide you. In ninth house, from sun, whenever any planet seated in ninth house, whether it is a malefic, whether it is benefit, he will come in your life and play your role in the future, who will lead you to the future. Because ninth we consider as the future. So he will make some action today. In your life, you will make some action today. Suppose, example, he will come and say, oh, why you are not saving the money? You should put the money in this investment. And by listening him, your conscious is also allowing and you are done. In future, you will earn a lot of money because he has lead you toward your future. It may be anything. You can see it may be anything. Now, these are the good things that your soul has receiving something. If it is Kendra, throughout life, whenever that planet comes, your soul get benefit. But in 5 and 9, only periodically you will get some benefit and then they will not come in your life. Those who are seated second, third, and 11th in your sun chart, they will come and gives you an opportunity. Now it's your option whether to go with him or not to go with him. There's always option. Should I do or should I avoid? Should I do? If you do, it will be beneficial. If you not do, then it's gone. That's an opportunity that is gone, that you are lost. But I'll advise you should do. Because by doing this, you are creating a new deeds, and that new deeds will be given some result in the upcoming period. The worst situation is that whenever in sun chart, if any planet seated in 6, 8, or 12th house in sun chart, that are the planets where somebody will come. See, all the planet has its say during its dasha or transit. When in your sun chart, who's seated in 6th house, 8th house, or 12th house, even Jupiter, even a good planet seated in the sun, from sun, the best friend of a sun is the moon, Mars, and Jupiter. Either all three of one will sit or all seated 6, 8, and 12. When it dasha comes, when its period comes, Mahadasha comes, that time somebody will come and make you suffer. Now, this suffering is not because of him, it's because of you have to suffer. That is why they enter in your life. They will make you some influence whereby you face hardship, disease, death, enemy, because you came in influence of him. And they are having some dominating thing. That is why we see whenever the planets are in 6, 8, and 12, they cause you harm. They come in your life and cause you harm. Those who are 8 to your sun, see that you can see from ascending chart also. But it will be easy for you if you cast the sun chart. You cast the sun chart and those who planet seated in 8. Suppose there is no planet seated in 8, means you have no debt. You have nothing to repay to any soul. But if some planet is seated in 8, see 8 we normally say the end. We normally say end, death, or fear. If there is any planet seated 8 from sun or in sun chart, any planet seated in the 8th house, they are the people, or when that dasha comes, when that planet dasha comes, you will face a hardest period of your life. I can say up to the way of a suicidal tendency people face, because your conscious will not listen, your inner voice. You will lose your confidence and you may be misguided. See, think about the people who make the suicide. Does they are not aware what they are doing? They are aware, but they cannot overcome out of it. And their conscious by their soul is so much in pressure. And we all know because of the Shastra and Karma rules, we know those who take the life of himself will never get again life because you have made your soul pain. So that is the whoever planet seated 8 in the sun chart or 8 from the sun, where it is sun is placed. That is the worst situation where you face a lot of hardship and you have to be very careful because it's a loss of your confidence. And we all know when person loses confidence, then it is very difficult to him to stand. And lastly, when the sun chart or from sun, whoever sit in the 12th house, they are the planet when that dasha comes, when that period comes, that is the period whereby your soul will be lost. You have to pay because 12th is for loss and to pay to the nature. This is a time where nobody come in your life, nobody influence your soul, but your soul is directed naturally to certain things where you have to loss, you have to do, repay to the good what you have done. So this is only the last situation in the planet who plays 12 to the sun, whether it is Rahu, Venus, any planet is situated 12 to the sun or 12th house in the sun chart, they are the planet who will going to cause you naturally. See, what is the difference between nature and man-made? Man-made means you come influence with someone. Somebody will influence in your life. Whereas in nature means nobody is in your life. Immediately situation turns. Like earthquake happens, like flood comes and you lost everything, your house or something. It happens in the flood or in the earthquake or any natural calamity. So you being the victim of the natural calamity, nature will take back everything without losing any confidence, without losing anything. So that better the sun chart is there. So sun chart need to be judged very carefully because that is, see, by moon you can judge if you are not in good mood. By body you can locate, yes, he is not in the good mood or his action is not perfect. But sun chart is very difficult to judge because that happens inside his body. Sometimes he himself doesn't aware. See,
Mm.
when you are in a bad mood, your face itself says, and we looking to that person, we say, are you in worries? Are you in tension? Why your face becomes small? Why you are dark? Why your face is not glowing? Physically also, his tension, he is very depressed. So you come to know. But what about the inner fight he is doing with his soul? That's nothing but the sun chart. That's the inner fight he is doing with himself. So while you are channelize everything, you should see what his action is there. That is the physical action that we see from the ascendant chart. What is the mood during that period? See, that is very important while you are locating any transit. Whenever you are locating any transit, normally we see from the ascendant, we see from the moon. But that same transit, if you locate from the sun chart, you'll come to know what goes inside his mind, what calculation he is doing himself. His mood is some different direction, his action is in different direction, but his conscious is with that or not. Many times it happen after doing the deeds or just at the moment of doing, we always say, you are making me force that I should do, but my conscience is not allowing. I'm
Mhm.
not feeling good. And many times it happens when your body and mind is not aligned, your confidence lose. Immediately your confidence lose. At a time when people see some accident, mishaps or anything in the road, they immediately get shocked physically, emotionally, and by the time internally his confidence level get down. So that is the third thing that is a very important to be located. So in the ascendant chart, okay, that's all the physical action. 25% of a physical action will be counted. In moon chart, all your mind, thoughts, belief, everything, that's emotions, that be also recorded 25%. But the 50% of your things is your uh, soul, because soul has a 50%, that's a half of life. See, we have a half of a body and half of a soul. So 50% of your action is with your conscious. See, many times while you are thinking, should I go? Should I do? Should I not do? Should I do? Should I not do? You'll get some voice. Okay, just do it. No, what will be changed? That is not mood. That is not mind. That is not your body. That is your past deed, which is influencing you. That do it. If that deeds is good, that means you are influenced by your soul, your inner voice, that you will be succeeded. And by doing this act, you are cleaning your past deeds. And this is the best way while listening to your heart. See, in Muhurt Shastra, there are so many Muhurtas given. Select the good days, auspicious time, everything. But at the last, in the Muhurta Martan, it is written, if nothing is favoring, you are not getting good deeds, you are not getting good time, then it says, listen to your heart. Now, heart again is the karak of a sun. It says, when your conscience is bright, when your conscience is allowing, do it. When your conscience is not allowing, even though that's a good day, good time, all things auspicious, but you will not accounted for that because your conscience was not allowing. So these things is very important in the astrology because our all the see all our sages, all the great people has only made all these shastra and rules to make our life better. It is nothing that they got some pleasure, they got some reward. That is why they made. They made, they learned themselves, they experiment in their life, and they came to know that this is the truth of a life. If you see any Granth, any Shastra, any Vedas, anything, the crux of everything, whatever we listen, whatever is only one thing, listen to your inner voice. And that inner voice is nothing but your sun, your soul, your own confidence. And when somebody's sun is weak, see, sun, as I told you, that is when sun get weak. If sun is associated with a Rahu, see, sun has its inner and outer power. That's a light. And because of its light, we are able to see other planets. In the geometry, we have learned that sun is the only planet who's being naturally lighted. And with that light, we are able to see Earth, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, all other planets. So sun is the main cause. That is why we keep sun in the center and then all the planets rotating to them. So here in the sun, sun can unlight all the planets, sun can combust all the planets, but sun itself get combusted by Rahu. And that is why in the day of a solar eclipse, why people are doing so much good deeds, why people are doing chanting mantra, taking a bath in the holy river, because their soul may not be guided negative side. While chanting, that means you are concentrating one thing, you are not influenced by the surrounding and nature. That is the way in the solar eclipse day, when the solar eclipse is there, people say that you sit to the temple, sit to the bank of a river, holy river, take a bath, so that your conscience is in the good mood, good surrounding, so you are not influenced by the negativity surrounded by and created by this Rahu. You don't come into the illusion. This all the world is a Maya. We all know it's a Maya and illusion. So that illusion should not touch you. Now science also prove during the time, because in the olden days when solar eclipse is there, they avoid all the foods. They just give up the food, water. They don't use. Now science has proved due to the solar eclipse, there are a lot of bacteria grow. As the sun heat is not there, there are a lot of bacteria grow. And that is why one should not take the food, one should not drink the water during that period. See, at the time of our ancient sages, there was no scientific way. So they could not express why it's so. So they have given that this is the things you have to follow. At that time, logic also was not so powerful. So people also not asking why should we do, why we should not do. Now logic is so powerful, so everybody wants a reason behind it. And now science is giving us a reason. That is why we are believing the science, but we are not believing our own Shastra. You see at the time of written all the Shastra, they say the Mars is red. Who sages has gone there and seen? But that is the calculation. That's an astronomer or rishi who can see with their vision that it's a Mars is red. And this our text is writing the Mars is red since so many years. Now NASA sent Yan and they confirm, oh yeah, it is red. So what we are saying, what our sages are saying.
Yeah.
So things are just discover, rediscover. It has not been invented. They invented by our old sages only. So here in the sun chart, sun can become weak if there is a Sun Rahus together. That's a worst situation where Sun loses power, who give the power to everyone, who has a power to absorb everybody's power, get reduced when there is a solar eclipse or wherever the Sun Rahu, Sun Ketu is there. It means whatever your soul has will be always being clouded. You will never able to know what is lies inside your soul. As like we know that there is a sun, but because of the cloud we feel darkness. We feel the darkness. The same way when Sun Rahu is there or Sun Ketu is there, it is a misguiding. Sun Rahu obviously misguiding because now Rahu is absorbing the power of Sun and he become the king. And as the worst ruler it is. Whereas Sun Ketu is there, even though you know that this is wrong, you cannot express because Ketu doesn't have a sense. So the Sun Ketu people know that this is wrong, but they have to they cannot do any change because they cannot express why it is wrong. They cannot say. So that is a Sun Ketu. This is the worst situation of Sun. In your ascendant chart, if the Sun is placed in 6th house, 8th house, and 12th house, in the ascendant itself, means your soul is under the pressure of enemy, of a disease. So your confidence always being loose. Think about the person who's under the debt, heavy debt. Does he have a guts to face others? No, that's the Sun in 6th house. If somebody is surrounded by enemy, then he has to bow down. He cannot put his head in. Why? Because Sun is in 6th house. When he's in the disease, distress, he cannot have his confidence. That's the Sun in 6th house. When Sun in the 8th house, that means in the chart, ascendant chart, is the Sun in the 8th house, means your alarming system is so weak. Whenever Sun is in 8th house, means your alarming system of body, see our body immediately react by way of a fever. We all know if there is something mistake in the body, our inner things has start, immunity system fight the outsider, and that fighting create the heat in the body. So we feel that there is a fever. That's a Sun. So our soldiers are fighting inside with the outsider who has entered. So that is, but that alarm we immediately get. We feel that we are sleeping, we feel that we are weak. But when Sun is in 8th house, you'll never know. You know in 2nd stage, 3rd stage, you might heard that his heart is now only 25% working. His kidney has been worse. His immunity is gone down. He is in the 2nd stage of a cancer, 3rd stage. Why that so late alarm is there? That late alarm is because of the Sun in the 8th house. I've seen many cases where Sun in 8th house, your alarm will be given you at the last moment where there's a very less chance of worry. Many people, many famous people, I should not name it, but having the Sun in the 8th house, their conscious, their voice, their inner sense doesn't give them alarming stage that this is wrong, but they go in the wrong direction, and when they come to know, it is too late. And Sun in the 12th house means you are wasting your energy. Whenever Sun in the 12th house means you are losing your immunity yourself. You need a daily calorie 2200 to 2400 calorie, 2200 to 24,000 calorie, 2400 calorie you need for the body to run, as like it's a charging of a battery where you can work performing. This person may be a wrestler, this person may be a bodybuilder, so he need more calories. So he's wasting his calories. When Sun in the 12th house, you are wasting your calories, and one day it will come where you lose all the calories and you become down. You see the later age of all the wrestlers and all the people or the bodybuilders, they are so weak. They become so much weak and aging get faster to them because they have boosted their energy. So here we need to see in ascendant chart, see the ascendant lord, where your Sun place, where your moon place. This is that. In your moon chart, see where the ascendant lord place, where Sun is placed. So that from mind, see this is 3-dimension. We are seeing from the 3-dimension. From body, where is soul and what is mind. In mind, where is the situation of body, where is the situation of your soul. In soul chart, we are seeing whether our soul is aligned with the body or whether our soul is being driven with the good driver of a mood. Because everything, see, out of these three, the fastest is our moon. We all know in transit, where sun completes one sign, moon completes 12 signs. It's a 1 month where moon completes all 12 signs, where sun has just moved to one side. The luckiest people will be those having in ascendant sun and moon. So all three are in alignment.
Yes.
If you cast different chart, it will remain same only. So what is your mind is saying, what is your body is saying, and what is your soul is saying is the same thing. If you three friends are standing just one to other, then you will see this. So they all are also seeing same thing, but he is in some direction and another is same direction, other direction. Then he will see something that will see. So this is the best way. If your sun and moon in the ascendant, and your ascendant lord is also in ascendant, that means your mind, body, and soul is in the alignment in the one line. And one should try this while making the cesarean, while making the plant cesarean. When you are being given that you have this 3 hours, this 4 hours, this day, you can plan the cesarean. So you make the ascendant, and that time only will come in the early morning, because in early morning you will find sun in the first house. 2 hours to the sunrise, you'll find the sun. So within that 2 hours, if you find to locate the sun, moon, and you need to see the distance between sun and moon should be 12 degrees ahead, so that it's not being combust. Sun is the only planet we have seen that it's the only planet who don't allow anybody to go far, will retrograde and come, make it come back. And if it is very close, then he will not allowing that result. So he'll say, go back. So in the certain relation only, the sun is keeping relation with everyone. If you try to go closer, you will be punished. Your power will be taken away. That we call as a combustion. And if you go far away to your soul, distance to the soul, then it will back it by the retrogression. We all know from sun, whoever sit at 6, 8, and 12, 6, 7, 8 house, 6, 7, and 8 house from the sun, wherever sun is, they all are retrograde. They all will be retrograde. At least it starts from 5th house to 9th house. But exactly 122 to 10 degree distance from the sun will make the planet retrograde, because they try to against the sun. They go back to the sun. So sun will pull them one side. Come this side. Whenever you go behind someone, then you'll say, you, come here. Come, show me your face. So it will make him to reversely work. So sun is only creating combustion. Sun is creating the retrogression. So sun, that is our own soul. That is very important in anybody's life. And by seeing this 3 dimension, as I told you that cast the ascendant chart, cast the moon chart, that will be available in your chart. But cast the sun chart specially and see the position of a planet. If Kendra, some planet seated, is a supporter to your soul. If Trikona is any planet seated in 5, 9, they will be a time being supporter. If 2, 3, and 11, any planet seated from the sun, they are the opportunity for you. If you take the opportunity, you will reach to some good place. And those who are sitting 6, 8, and 12 from the sun, they are the main sufferer to your soul. They may lead to the negativity, and where your soul will not have a time to repair itself. Whatever the deed has been done, it has been done, and now you have only to regret. So one planet should not be a 6, 8, and 12 from the sun. If it is 6, 7, and 8, obviously it is retrograde. So you have no control over it. So that better is your ascendant chart, your sun chart, and your moon chart. By seeing all these 3, you come to know a perfect matching of a person, how he is acting mentally, physically, and innerly. And now this all 3 planets can be checked in D9 chart. See, why to see D9 is that what lies inside. We all, many times we pretend, it's not a reality. We may pretend. We may say, "Hey, I have a confidence. Why you are saying this?" But innerly we are biting our nails. Does he will cause me problem? Does he will... So that inner things is seen from the D9 chart. So whether your action which you are doing, like I am now speaking, does I speak whatever my body allows? That is to be seen from D9 chart, whether his outer body is aligned with the inner body or not. That is the ascendant to ascendant we match. Moon to moon, you have to match how your moon is exposing. It's showing something, emotion, whether the same emotion lies within him or he's just being influenced by outer environment. Many times it happens that when we are seeing that everybody is crying, you also start crying. That is external. You don't feel, but you feel that if I will not cry, then other will see to me. So you also cry. You also laugh. Sometimes everybody laugh, you also laugh. And then somebody asks, why you are laughing? Just because others are laughing. So that is the outer features of your moon. Does you really feel something insidely? That is a D9 chart. How the D9 chart your moon is placed. And lastly, the sun. That is the greatest thing to be seen in the D9 chart. Locate your sun in the outer chart, how it is placed, where it is placed, and see, does your sun is a Vargottama? Does your sun is a Bhavottama? Does your sun is in the exalted or own sign in D9? Means you are connecting your soul from inside. There's a connection. There's a current always passing from inside. So whatever soul is doing is not being influenced by external things. It is being also connected with your inner voice. So that better zooming you can able to see in D9 chart.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If sun is in Ashtamamsha position.
Yeah. See, if it is in Ashtaman position, means somebody is putting a pressure to your soul, which you don't like, but you have to perform that. That is why I said the planet only who's 8 from the in main chart or in Ashtamans. That's a planet who will going to cause you harm, and you have a no option because it will going to end your deeds. It will be going to do harm to your action. So that is why that sun position is very important in D9 chart also. If somebody's sun outerly in the main chart, if it is debilitated, means he's not showing able to show his courage or his confidence. But in D9 chart, if sun is exalted, means he has a power he's not able to express. At that time, we always guide him. We always tell him that don't listen others. Maybe by outside you will be misguided. You should follow your inner voice. If your conscience say yes, then only do. If your conscience doesn't allow, don't do it. So that we have to see. Or if it is a reverse situation, if in the main chart the sun is exalted, and in D9 chart if it is debilitated, that means you should go with the other soul. You should follow the other soul because you may be misguided by your inner soul. Your inner soul may not give you a better situation. So better you should go what the other souls, other people surrounding you is giving you a guide. So this is all about the, we have seen the how to see the sun chart, how to see the moon chart, and how to locate the ascendant. And by which overall effect you will come to know, then you will don't have to see any other divisional chart, what I believe. Because you have done everything dimensionally with your physical action, your emotional action, and your conscious action. And while this all three will lead, you will not going to do any wrong things. So see, in our social matters, in our commercial matter, in our career or any prospect, we need to do everything with the physical, emotional and inner body. When three align, then the result what becomes, the outcome which we produce is something better. Many times we say that he got that thought, why I could not do that? Because his three things are in align, so he is guided by himself and done very well. Even you try to improve your soul, you can do also better. See, there is always a chance of improvement. What the planet you brought by birth is the deeds of your past life. That is because of the past life you are brought here to make it positive, to make it convert into the positive. But just by your birth chart, you have been suppressed. Oh, I don't have a good planetary position. How I can do? No, this is an opportunity to overcome that thing. Come out from this. This is an opportunity given to you. So first of all, you have to repair your ascendant chart, then moon chart, because always the action, then mind, and then it is the result, that's the soul. So repair your physical action. That is why in yoga it is say, if you sit quietly in the position, yoga position, then your mind also come into the alignment with the body. What the yoga says? Yoga always says that just sit in the comfort level. Then slowly, slowly your thoughts will be concentrated. And then you become one. Then you become in the deep meditation. That is reaching the sun. So bodily action, you're seated quietly. Mentally action, that you zero your thoughts, your mind start
Yes.
shut down, and you come to the concentration, and slowly, slowly you become one. That is the sun. So this is a importance of ascendant chart, moon chart, and Surya chart. So if anything is being clear, you can tell me.
Thank you very much, Sir. Can I ask some questions to you?
Sure.
You said that if moon and sun in the first house, it is the best situation to have. But we know the rules. Karaka Bhava Nashaya, sun in the first house, like a Bhava Karaka. In this case, it will not cause the problem, yeah?
See, when ascendant Lord is also in the ascendant with the sun, so if your conscious doesn't work, your action will work. That is why I say if these three planets are together, somebody will lead.
Okay.
Normally, we always say that our ascendant will lead, means our body lead. When these three planets are together, or even sun and moon are there, if your conscious doesn't allow, at least your mood will turn into the positive. So there is a chance. If only sun is placed in the first house, that means your soul is go so deep into the body, it doesn't listen. Now he is resting and he will not listen. That is the Karaka Bhavana. Why I say all three planets should be there. So somebody will lead. Somebody will become a leader and other two will be a good follower. So that is why anyway you will reach to your destination.
Yes.
There is only one planet is the ascendant Lord. In ascendant means your body is perfect, but your soul goes somewhere and your mood goes somewhere. If only moon is there, your body is listening your mood, you are changing your mood again and again. Sometimes you are physically, sometimes you are emotionally. So not confirmed. But whenever all three are there, one will become leader and other will be the good follower.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your wisdom and excellent explanation. I hope that you will come on Russian Auditory on Fovedas channel again. And all the folks, all the auditors, if you know English or Hindi language, you can visit YouTube channel of Dr. Harmesh Mehta, DM Astrology. And if you want to book a consultation or astrological courses, you can also purchase them on that Harmesh site, dmastrology.com. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, Sir, that you come on this channel. Namaste.
Thank you very much.